Wub. God, I love that song. I do love that song. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Andy Belford, a.k.a. Zwill, and I'm part of the player relations team here at Riot Games. Joining us today, I've got a very special guest co-host, Jeff Lynn, a.k.a. Riot Light. Want to say hi, Jeff?
Hey, everybody.
All right, you guys probably know Jeff. You've probably seen a lot of the things that he's written on the boards and on Reddit and Ask FM. But we have him here in the studio today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the upcoming Champ Select update, which is super exciting. And joining Jeff and I today, actually, we've got a couple of subject matter experts. Really exciting. We have Eric Kenna and Cam Fung, a.k.a. Riot Socrates and Boo Earns. Is that respective? Which one of you guys is Socrates?
I'm Socrates.
Okay, so that's Kenna, by the way.
Yep.
Kenna is Socrates, and you are Boo Earns. I feel like I have to say it like Boo Earns.
I was saying Boo Earns.
You say Boo Earns? Yeah. Okay. I'm assuming from that you're actually a big Simpsons fan.
Correct.
Okay.
Classic Simpsons, of course.
Classic Simpsons, of course. Like the first, what were we talking about? Like the first 6 seasons?
Yeah.
That sounds about right?
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Okay. Well, I guess before we actually get into the meat of the conversation, let's get to know a little bit about you. So we already know that Cam's a bit of a Simpsons fan. Tell us a little bit more about you, man. Like where, how'd you get here to Riot?
So my schooling was more industrial design, so the design of physical products. But since I've graduated, I've been working in software and always loved games, and eventually made the jump over to games and haven't looked back. And it's kind of the same set of problems, just different medium. And
so when you're talking about physical products, what kind of physical products was your education around?
So I've worked on housewares, like picture frames, croquet sets, chessmen, plastic garbage cans, like weird stuff for your home. And then
today I learned.
Yeah. Today,
wow.
Yeah, today you learned. I worked at a company that made home theater screens.
Wow.
You mean the company, like the first one?
Well, they've won an Emmy award for it. Like they did some of the first green screen stuff, and retro reflective screens for back when they would project scenery in the background for backdrops. And yeah, they did some pretty cool stuff.
That's neat. It's you never think about the actual design behind things like, garbage cans. And so yeah. But there is actually some guy sitting at a desk, on Photoshop or AutoCAD or whatever, designing the garbage can and how that.
My intro to industrial design course was 80% chairs. It's you sit in a chair, right? But when you look back at the history of it, there's so much variation in the form of a chair and the style that you can add to it, even though it's just a thing that holds your body.
Wow. That's awesome. So Kenna, how about you, man? How did you get here? I see you're actually wearing a Haunted Mansion shirt.
Yeah. No, I just wear these shirts. I didn't actually work at Disney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got a degree in philosophy from Berkeley, and I remember the day I graduated, it just hit me. I was like, oh, I actually have to go do something productive now, huh? So I went to work in pharmaceuticals. I did that for 3 or 4 years. And I just realized manufacturing is super boring and soul destroying. But I'd always played games competitively. So I played WoW. I was pretty high on the ladder. Played the hell out of CS. All those games. And so I was kind of like looking for opportunities to get into the games industry, and I got one at a social game startup, and so I did that for 6 or 7 years, and then I found out that Riot was in LA, and I saw Tom Cadwell, who's a VP of design here, give a talk, and I was like, I just gotta sit down with him and see if there's any openings. And a few weeks later, I was working at Riot, and I've been here for 3 years now.
Okay, right on. So you said you played a lot of Counter-Strike and stuff like that. What other kind of games have been really formative for you?
Dude, I played everything. If I had a free moment, I was playing games. So when you when you type /played into WoW, and you just have to kind of reevaluate. I had that on multiple characters, right? I played a bunch of MMOs. like, I played Final Fantasy. Like every major MMO up through WoW, I played a significant amount of time. Like Ultima Online, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours.
What shard?
I was on Napa Valley.
Napa. I was on Napa.
It's been a
too.
long time. I played a bunch more on like custom shards. Every like
Okay.
2 or 3 years, I go back and play. It's so hard now because everyone's just like stupidly good at the game. Like anyone who's still playing is like they have everything down to like the freaking microsecond.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, Halby combo, like I'm toast. GG.
Yeah. So Cam, how about you? Like game wise, like what's your thing?
Oh man, for me, RTSs were big. Unlike a lot of people at Riot, it's like people really like Blizzard stuff. I was more Westwood. Loved like Command and Conquer, Red Alert, that kind of.
Yes, but did you play Earth and Beyond?
No. So see, I'm not a true fan. But like like Dune was like my first one of my first PC games. I think that was a lot of fun. And Counter Strike, like who didn't lose like probably a year or two of their lives like continuously to that when it came out.
CNC was great, man. Did you play the dinosaur level? There's like the hidden dinosaur level. That was like the thing in that game.
Tank rushes were the thing in that game.
I never played competitively.
Every single multiplayer game, tank rush.
You mean the mammoth tank or whatever?
Yep.
I just remember that thing was super OP. Yeah.
But back then it was like you can't even find anybody to play with. You got to play over the modem.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was all the.
Like I was just happy to be playing with another live person.
I remember my first multiplayer game was Doom 2, like on a network, and it just like blew my mind. I was like, we're in the same game. I was like, whatever,
Well,
10 years old or something.
Yeah, that's back when LAN parties were like a big thing because you could actually play with your friends. Like being able to like sit down and play a game of like Quake or Duke Nukem or something like that on a multiplayer like was a big deal, right? But yeah, no, I remember like. The same with like Unreal Tournament. Like the first time I was able to play online and do like facing worlds and stuff like that. Oh God, yes, memories. I think we're also aging ourselves pretty.
Here it goes. Yeah,
pretty.
No, we were just like in elementary school. That's all.
Oh right, yeah, college. All right, so got to know a little bit about you guys, but we are actually here to talk about a pretty meaty topic. So I want to jump right into that because I think this is going to take a pretty big chunk of time to get through this topic. So, Jeff, we are updating Champ Select, right?
We are.
And that's
a big project.
How big? Like, give us like an idea of the scale. Like, how big of a project is this in terms of like Riot scale?
I think the thing is, in the history of games, very few studios have ever even thought of completely redoing the actual play game flow or the core game experience. And with Riot, with the new Summoner's Rift update that we did the year before, we kind of looked at Champ Select and we thought, if we had a second chance at this, how would we actually design this now? And with how we understand League and how it's developing as a real sport, how would we change the actual pregame flow to match that aspiration? And so I think when we first set out on this project, it was early March 2015, I want to say, guys. I think it was around that time. And nobody in the company actually thought we could deliver it within the year. And they were like, what are you guys thinking? Like, how is it possible you're going to hit the next ranked season? And when we joked about it, when we said, we're going to go for this ranked season, they were like, 2017? And they made a huge joke about this. And we were like, no, like, we want to do this year. And we're going to try our best to actually redesign the entire thing.
Right. Go big or go home, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, so why, I guess, like, Cam, kind of like, why is it so important for us to do this now? Like, why is it so important for us to get us out the door, for 2016 season?
I mean, I think it's all about like when the sooner you can release a feature, the sooner you can realize kind of like the value of those changes. So with this feature in particular, like going with the start of the ranked season is like, that's when like players are all coming back from their breaks. They're all like going into this experience again, and ranked more than the normals is where we tend to see, heads kind of get hot. People take it really seriously, and when they get frustrated, or run up against situations that can cause conflict, it arises. So by launching at the start of the season, we capture kind of like the tone of the whole thing. And if we miss that date, it's a lot harder to be like, oh, guys, like it's a month in, we're going to change some of the rules here, and here's this new champion select. So that's why that date was important to us.
We certainly didn't want to release it like in the last month of the season.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. It's like, because it is fundamentally it's a rule change, right? Like there are more sort of like constraints around the way you go into a game now.
Well, it to me, like when I look at it personally, it feels like it changes like the whole dynamic and structure of the game that is the pregame. I mean, is that an accurate, like from kind of like a layman's perspective? Does that make sense?
So we're formalizing a lot of the just sort of like the conversation that goes on between players in an unstructured way right now. So it's like like for everyone who goes into a game in currently in Champion Select they're gonna have to resolve these conflicts, and we're just giving them the tools to overcome that challenge more easily.
Okay, cool. So Jeff, like, help me help these guys walk through like this whole process, man. Like, how do we get to the point where we're going, okay, we know we need to change this thing. We know that it needs to be fresh. It needs to be new. We know that we want to make the player experience better, right? So how do you guys actually get to that? To get to from like seeing the problem and finding what we believe is the solution.
I think the thing is, even on the team itself, we have a lot of league players who actually haven't tried ranked as much, right? So half of the team, super high skill. They're all platinum, diamond, and above. The other half, they're kind of like, ranked is not for us.
But fun fact, Jeff is actually pretty darn good at League of Legends. For those of you who don't know, he's actually pretty good. And I'm not just saying that.
There's a story where we actually went to visit Korea, and we're in the PC cafes, and a bunch of Masters players are like, do you guys actually play if you're from Riot? And we actually sat down and played them one-on-one, and we did pretty well, I have to say.
So you were in the PC Bong, and you actually were able to hang with the Korean players?
I think I won, actually. Let's not say hang. But so early this year, we kind of just like sat together and we're like, hey, like how do we make ranked a better experience for everybody on the team to actually really enjoy? But secondly, we actually had a meeting with Magus over at esports. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of like, if you look at League today and you look at real sports like basketball or soccer, kids are growing up, gamers are growing up, kind of looking at these athletes, whether it's Faker in League, Michael Jordan in basketball, and they're not thinking in terms of like, I just want to be a basketball player. They're like, I want to be the best point guard in the world, or I want to be the best mid lane player in the world. So the game had evolved to such a state of we weren't actually reinforcing or supporting how players were enjoying the game today. So I basically went to these guys and I said, hey, if you had the chance to completely remake this basically in the vision of a real sport, how would you redesign it? And I think that's what led to, a couple months of research and design iteration on what you guys see today.
Yeah, it was like, there's probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 different possibilities that we went through, some of which were pretty bad, to end up where we're at. And, it's like...
You got to go through the bad ones to get to the good one.
Yeah, design is such an iterative process. Like every step in it, you go back and you look at where you were previously and you're just like, wow, we really made a lot of mistakes here, right? And so I think, yeah, like the first few months was all about identifying like the big goals of the project, and then walking through all the possible like ways we could handle like role combinations. Like, oh, like will matchmaking support this? Like, what are the abuse cases? Like, are people gonna respond to these things? Like, should we do like just a pure stack rank? All that stuff. And then finally getting to the place where it's like the harmony of like, all right, we're confident like matchmaking is gonna work, ranked systems are gonna work. Players also get more autonomy over their choices. We're confident it's going to improve behavior. This is it. Like we're pretty sure this is it. And then building towards that and starting to iterate not so much on the systems design, but on like more of the UX and the biz dev and that kind of stuff.
It was really funny super early on, and I made this super unreasonable demand on you guys. And we call it the 3-second
which
test.
one of those was it?
Which unreasonable? Yeah.
Because these guys, they do lab tests almost every single week. They bring new players into the game, try the new Champ Select prototype that we had, and we actually see how much they understood what was going on. And I said, our goal is a brand new player who has never played League before. They try the Champ Select once and they have to understand it. And if I actually pause the experience at any point, they have to understand what's going on within 3 seconds. And I was like, guys, that's the goal.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we're like, do we? Nope. it's still that's this one, but like you keep running through it, and eventually you get to the point
and you smooth
where
out the edges, and you find the worst offenders, and you make them better. And
yeah.
That, for a game with I know we don't use this term very much, but with like the burden of knowledge that League of Legends carries with it, like for new players, like I can see how that's a priority, but good God, trying to get to that point, like
I mean, when you think about it, like if you remember back to your first ranked game and you go and it's like, how does anybody know that you're supposed to ban anything and what the pick order is? Like,
it is. It's a super daunting experience. It's like the first time you're in there, you're just like, you've got this kind of cavalcade of chat where people are just like mid or feed or whatever,
Right.
and you're just like, I'm a new player. I have no idea what's going in. I'm going to press this button and this character because I like the way they look, right? I mean, and that's like, how do you make the design like so intrinsic that they can get past that?
So when you bring new players into the game that have never played before and they were trying the initial lab test, all of us were sitting behind these two-way windows and mirrors, and the players were like, wait, why does that person keep saying they need a jungle? What's a jungle, guys? Right? And they've never played League before. Right. So I think some of the design that they've come up with really kind of smooths that over. So even a new player, you read that stuff before you get to that time pressured environment.
Cool.
Right. So when you get there, it's much easier to make that choice.
It's interesting too, because like I think early on, we took this approach of like, hey, let's like add a bunch of this information that like players just kind of like know, like later users, and see if we can like fit it into the UI. And we ended up with just like this enormously overcomplicated UI. And so a lot of the design process was just like stripping out all of the kind of like complexity and where it wasn't needed, and then simplifying the stuff that was needed to make it like super readable. And I think that comes through a lot.
I mean, like that was kind of deliberate on our side. Like we put in as much as we tried to put the kitchen sink in there, really. And then it's like, how do you simplify back to the really essential parts? Like, what do people really notice? What do people really value? And like, how do you find like those nuggets that really amplify the experience?
Well, we were talking to Jeff a couple weeks ago about this kind of in preparation for the podcast. And like you brought up, like during that conversation, there was this kind of great moment of clarity where you guys really had to ask those hard questions. Like what were those, like some of those questions that you asked that you really just honed in on for the final product?
What do you mean after the
and he's asking you guys about the great design pivot.
I was like, which time are you talking about?
Right. Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of that which time going on. So far, we know that Jeff is a cruel taskmaster.
Of course.
I think it's more like it's the nature of the beast, especially in a complex system like this. Like even now, we don't really have answers to like how are people going to react to the incentives that we give them and like the new experience that they have. Like it's going to feed back on itself. And it's just we're always going to find new stuff.
So let me set a quick context for everybody about what happened here. So we're about a month before going to PBE, and we had agreed on that date for PBE. And we had just done a round of playtesting with a bunch of professional players. Korean players flew in from Korea to try it out. And a bunch of kind of the leaders around Riot also tried it out just to see what it was like. And the feedback was actually great. Everybody was like, the visuals look awesome. Everything makes sense. As it was a little too fast in the timing at that point. But all the designers, we were watching this and we actually all met afterwards and we were like, it's not good enough. And so we actually all disappeared in a room and we started whiteboarding. Like, what were the current issues with it? Why didn't it feel like it was 110%? And why was it 95% only today? And so a month before this, we go back to the engineering team. And it was the best conversation. But you guys can talk about some of what happened after this.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are just amazing. Like they've been like slogging it out, like just taking like 2 or 3x what would be like a normal healthy load, and they're just doing it with like smiles on their face. And then we come to them with these pivots. We had good reasons for it. They were just like, cool, let's do it. Like if this is going to make the end product a lot better for players, like. It's definitely worth doing. There is one of them in particular. I don't know what his summoner name is. What is it, Bahamut?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. His summoner's Bahamut. He was like, we asked him because we had like a team retro. We're all like, we've all been like putting in a ton of hours. Everyone okay? And him in particular. How do you feel about this? And he was just like, if any of you guys had the opportunity to like put in a few extra hours to like invest in this product to get it to that A+ rather than A, all of you guys would do it. It's just that he stepped up to the plate and really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
It
he's
was
the
a
one with
proud
the
father
opportunity.
moment.
Yeah,
Really proud moment.
yeah, it was a cool. It's a fun team to work on.
I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't really understand, or maybe they're just not aware of about game design in general. Like designers, engineers, everybody puts so much of themselves actually into the end result. Like it's a piece of you, right? So it's like, you become personally attached to it in a lot of ways. And I think sometimes that can manifest itself in us being a little bit difficult to take feedback on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like somebody told your baby was ugly.
Really, I love the feedback. That's like one of my favorite
Yeah.
parts.
I
Like,
mean, I love it too, right?
Yeah. I remember to me, it comes back to like your roots, because most of us are gamers, right? I remember as a kid, the first time I logged into this game called Ultima, I talked about it earlier, and like you turn the game on and like this chest like opens up and there's like this velvet like case inside, and you like press it and then you enter this like whole world of possibilities, right? And so I always think about that experience and how just how like formative it was. And so like, I think for most people at Riot, it's about the opportunity to create those same kind of experiences that are going to like stay with people and like, shape who they are and like and add value to their lives. So I think we all are very appreciative to have the opportunity to do that.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and certainly like, there's designers in this room, but even the decisions that we made, the entire team like had opinions, and they've really shaped the feature also.
Well, Jeff, you mentioned earlier about how kind of half the team is like experienced and ranked, half of them play more casually, things like that. Like, how did you guys balance those different opinions kind of going back and forth? Like, what were those conversations like?
I mean, ultimately, I left the final choices to guys like Eric and Cam. And for us, our challenge to everybody was, can we make an experience that even those guys would like to play? And I think at the very end of it, I think it was the night before PBE, and we were all having a chat about, is this good enough to go out the door or not? Is this fun enough for every single person on this team? And like Eric said, we're all gamers. And so I said, looking back on this 10 years from now, whether we're all at Riot or we're somewhere else, is this something you guys would be proud shipping out the door? And I think when everybody around the table said, yes, it was, that's when I made the decision, hey, we're going to go out with this. And that was the point where, everybody would enjoy playing it. Everybody understood what was going on. The system was, very simple but clean now. And it was just, a great moment where I was really proud of what they had accomplished.
We had kind of like a version of this in game already, right? Like, or at least I think a lot of people like assumed we were just going to take ranked team builder and just like port it over and say, hey, this is the new.
No way.
No way.
No way.
Well, I mean, we're all laughing. Like, what were some of the reasons why we didn't do that? Like, what were like? Did we notice like some particular pain points with ranked team with the current like the current team builder?
Well,
I say current,
I think
but
we were fundamentally solving a different problem with and I mean, Jeff can speak to this. Jeff was the.
So with the first team builder, we actually did have the goal of replacing all the queues one day. Mm-hmm. And we set out to do that, but it became super obvious early on with the first edition that we had given way too much control to the actual captains on the teams, and they didn't need to actually specify exactly the kind of team comp that they wanted to play. And I think it was an epiphany for everybody when it's not about the positions, because in the game design of this game, we have 4 sources of income, where you have 3 lanes, you have jungle. And so it's not about, can we figure out where people should go? It's about who you play in those positions. And once we kind of turned a leaf on that kind of philosophy, we thought, okay, now we know how we want to design this. We know how the game's evolving and how players are enjoying the game. So I went to the team and I said, but now I want to create an experience where it feels like a game even outside the game. So as soon as you hit play, it has to feel like you're immersed, right? We want to tell a story in Champion Select, and what does that experience look like? And I think that's why we really pushed the team to kind of come up with new visuals, new animations to kind of tell a story as you go towards Summoner's Rift. And it's not just kind of like a UI that you have to go through to play the game.
Yeah, I think that was pretty central to our design philosophy. Like, what's Aaron's summoner?
Sanjuro?
Yeah, Sanjuro.
Yeah, Sanjuro. He was pretty. He was our lead on the initiative on the UX side, and he was pretty instrumental in like helping us define what's the narrative across this whole experience, and like what do we want players to feel at different times, and like what is the level of excitement as you like get closer and closer to getting into the game. And what, like when we were talking early on, it's like each part of Champion Select, like what does it mean to the player? What are they trying to get out of it? What's their goal? But like also, what do we want them to feel? And like what does the ideal experience feel like? Like how do we get players closer to, like, you know, what does a pro player feel when they play with their team and they're talking about their team comp, and like how close can we get players to like how amazing that is?
Yeah, like the needs are, the needs for pro players are different than, like if you go into a ranked solo game, you're probably just like, all right, who's OP? I'm just going to ban him. Whereas in pro games, like, all right, it's Faker, so no LeBlanc, no Rise, and no, I don't know what he played this season. But like basically you ban out specific players, right? So making sure everyone's needs are met. But speaking to the story arc stuff, yeah, totally. I think a lot of the foundational work we did too, and like made it easier down the road. We're like working with the sound guys, and they're like, "What's happening here?" And it's like, well, it's like an emotional ramp. You know what I mean? Like you start out, you're forming your team, and it's like soft, like ambient, and then you kind of like
the storm,
yeah, and then you like kind of ramp into the experience. We talked about some crazy stuff originally, like every time someone locked in a different role, it played like a different music string. So like the top lane was like the drums, and like support was like the violin or whatever the fuck it was.
There was the fire and ice prototype, if you remember that.
The what?
Which one of you guys came up with the whole fire and ice thing of like every time one team did something, it had a completely different soundtrack, and then when the other team did something, it bounced?
Definitely Cam.
I don't actually know. No, I think it was probably one of the composers.
Okay. I mean, it's a really crazy idea. I thought it was really interesting.
It does sound like an audio designer's like wet dream. Being able, like, we want to dynamically shift the tone of the music all throughout. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, bring it all the way back to your point though about the old team versus the new. Like, so when we launched the team build originally, we saw like all this awesome sort of like upside there, like all our behavioral metrics, like quantitative and qualitative looked at. We're like, wow, this is a significantly better experience. Like not having arguments in Champion Select. It turns out that means they argue less in game. Like, who'd have thought, right? Yeah. So we're like, hey, can we solve some of these kind of issues around like friction getting into game, and like just make some of this stuff a little easier, and also make it work for ranked. And because with the old one, you could just if you have too much control over your selections, you can Q snipe and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the question was, can we get that to the point where it could actually take the position of all of the existing champion selects.
Yeah. Okay. And I think for me, like when we first started talking about ranked team builder, it's not team builder classic. However, it is solving the same class of problems. It's like how do we help strangers who don't know each other get together, communicate, cooperate, especially in ranked, like when the stakes are high and we have picks and bans and more coordination is needed. It's like how do we help players like get on the same page, play like they're playing with 4 other friends.
Cool. So at the risk of being controversial, I actually want to ask you a question from me as a player, right? Do we like run the risk with like the kind of, not necessarily like the ranked team builder, but with like the positioning, the like queuing and position, stuff like that? Do we run the risk of reinforcing a meta too much?
Well, the thing is, like, the meta is enforced, right? Like, so what Jeff was saying, you look at like the resource sort of management of the game. Like, there are 3 lanes that you're definitely gonna have people there. There's a jungle where there's resources, so it's like, and a lot of the game, sort of like the actual gameplay design now is built around like you're gonna have a jungler, right? Like there are jungle specific items. And you're probably going to have someone who's going to have to go to one of those lanes. This is going to follow your jungler around. But there are obviously suboptimal decisions, or there is the meta, basically, right? So yeah, basically, we kind of looked at that. We looked at the fact that essentially every game, unless you're going in with a 5-man, is sort of enforcing the meta. Mm-hmm. And the ones that weren't are basically pretty toxic games anyway. And we're like, well, why don't we just give players what they want? Like the community was like, this is the way we're going to play the game. And we're like, okay, that's cool. Like, let's build around that. Right.
What's really funny is when you actually talk about like diversity or creativity in the game, it's all about the champion picks, right? If you want to take a Heimerdinger jungle, if you want to take a Quinn top, you can do that in the champion select today. What we didn't want was there's really no teams out there who is doing like 3 in the top lane, nobody in the mid lane, and then like 2 junglers, right? Like nobody is doing that. And if you look at games in Team Builder, the old Team Builder, something like 90 to 95% of games had people in each position, right? So we were like, players, even with full control, they were already playing the game this way, right? So we really just wanted to build a toolbox where players were already enjoying the game in this manner.
So reinforcing player behavior that's already there. It seems like a solid choice.
Right.
It's kind of, I think it's actually kind of like acknowledging that the meta is good for the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that that you can say like who's the best ADC in the world, and that's different than just like well, who's the best player in the world, right? Like who's the best mid versus whatever. It adds the same kind of depth to the game that like sports have, and I think we with the actual sort of game design, we acknowledge that by creating items that are specific to teams and compositions that like work play together and that kind of stuff. And so this is kind of like the next step in that formalization, just outside of the game itself.
Very cool. So there's been kind of a hot topic.
Actually, I want to say one more thing.
Oh, go for it.
You can totally still do crazy stuff. Can I curse, by the way?
You can say crazy shit.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, you can totally still do crazy shit with your 5 friends, which is awesome and great, right?
Yeah.
What's not great is going into a ranked game and being like, we're double sporting, boys. You're like, dude, this is my master promos. What? Like, right. So it's about finding the sort of like right place for those things.
Yeah, I think that was never a great experience. And now we're going to give you an opportunity to do that with your friends, which, you know, you can have all the fun you want as long as you guys are all on the same page.
So there's been a topic that's really emerged from the community recently, and it's been talking about dynamic queue, right? Players are, I think a lot of people are just kind of like confused. People they don't understand how it works. But it's a radical change from what we have now. It's like, you know, there's solo queue where you can maybe play with one other person. But that's been a completely separate environment from, you know, the 5-man queuing thing, right? And there's been a lot of really interesting points brought up around it. Things about like kind of like the purity of like, you know, individual skill, things like that. Like, how did we? I'm assuming that we asked these questions early on in the design process.
We didn't ask any questions. We just So I think it's really cool to see the community's reaction to this, because it was really similar to our team's reaction, right? Where we're like, hey, have we ever thought about like opening it up, and like would competitive legitimacy still like be just as good? And some people are like, no, it's crazy. And some people are like, yeah, I think it would. Like, there's some other games that have done that. Like, let's dig into it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing is actually, if you've been around long enough, it used to be like this. It used to be just a dynamic queue. It's just ranked.
Sure, yeah.
How long ago was that? Was it like during beta or
Season 1, I think?
Season 1 or season 2.
Okay. So it's going to be, it'll be fresh in the memory of like, well, maybe not fresh, but it'll be in the memory of some of our, I'd say like older, more experienced players. But for new players, it seems very scary, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
and
honestly, League is in a very
recognizing that.
Yeah, I mean, and League's in a really, I'd say a very different place in season, you know, six next year? Yeah, season 6 coming up than it was in season 1. Like, how do we address that concern though?
I think the actual team at Riot's also in a very different place. So back in season 1, there were a lot of issues with how it was implemented, but we didn't quite know the solutions back then or how we would implement them. And to Eric's point, we are actually very aware of all the different concerns. In fact, Ryden, one of the artists on the team, as soon as we suggested this idea, he came over and he's like, I hate this. He's like, I hate you. I hate this. Like, I don't want to play this. So we actually had a document of kind of, I think it was up to 32 different concerns that we had about how this would potentially be a negative. And so we just started knocking these items down like one by one. So the main one that some players talk about is like competitive integrity. Mm-hmm. And actually, Eric is the designer of tier restrictions. And I mean, we can talk a little bit about how that could help the competitive integrity of the queue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, so really what it comes down to is like, if you look at players in normal, right, where they have like a 5-man rating, you look at players in ranked, the vast majority of them have very similar ratings, right? It's not like, oh yeah, like when I go and play with my friends in normal, I suddenly turn into like bronze 5, right? There's behavioral differences because like you're experimenting more and stuff like that. But in general, like your skill set moves around with you, and like your ability to carry games in environments with similar players, it tends to be pretty similar, right? So like we know that from a competitive competitive integrity standpoint, we're not going to just be like totally opening the floodgates and introducing, like, you're not going to have a bronze guy in your game who's just like, yeah, my like diamond friends just happen to like be able to play with me in such a way that they got me up to diamond, unless there's, you know, a really obvious abuse going on. And we actually have an amazing team of dudes who just, like, literally what they do is they go through the games, they look for people abusing the system, and they remove them from the system pretty aggressively. So obvious abuse cases aside, like, we're confident that we're going to see the same level of competitive integrity as we saw beforehand, and we do have a new tool set that we can use to ensure that we're still we're not allowing fringe cases, we're not allowing players who are playing legitimately to like invite their friends who are way outside of their skill range to like pull them up and things like that. And we're going to be keeping a super close eye on this. Like, ranked it's the heart and soul of the game, right? Like, it's a competitive game. If it's not working smoothly, like, we'll get in there and we'll make some adjustments.
Do we, with this design change, like, do we actually are we saying that we want to encourage people to play with their friends, to play as a group?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where when we first started talking about it, we're like, why is it that it's solo? Like, it's a team game, right? And we're like, yeah. It's like, well, why do we force people to to play as individuals? And like, you actually look at, like, if you think back on your ranked season, I'm assuming most people who are listening to this play some ranked. Think about like the most frustrating moments, right? It's like you're in your promos, and you're like, yeah, it's gonna be great. And you get in, some guy like AFKs. You're like, what the fuck? This sucks, right? Or like, you get in there and some guy's like, oh, I just gave up 2 kills. I'm taking off, guys, or I'm gonna feed or whatever. And so we've done a lot of work building behavioral systems like ranked restrictions, all this other stuff, and like lever buster, a bunch of systems to make incremental improvement on that stuff, right? But like, one of the biggest sort of like ways of fixing that problem is just giving you control over who you're going into game with, right? If you're playing with your best friends, they're probably not going to leave you hanging during your promos. So those are the kind of
if they do,
yeah,
They do.
yeah, right. Then you know whose house to go to. And,
I mean,
right?
I've heard stories of friendships ended by league, so like, that's kind of everything.
it's not
Yeah.
impossible.
But you have recourse. You have recourse, so it's less. It hurts less. Yeah. So that's what we see as the opportunity and the sort of risk, and that's how we're moving forward with it.
And I think to Eric's point, like, some of the other things that we've heard and we're kind of really watching super closely is like, is the pre-made 4 situation more toxic than the rest, right? And is it a great experience when you're put in a group as a solo with pre-made 4s? And to be honest, like, nobody on the team has a perfect prediction of how this is going to shake out, right? We have entire teams around the clock that will be looking at the data, watching all the pre-made 4 experiences and seeing like, hey, is it more toxic? And talking to some of the teams internally, we're super happy to kind of share some of that data with you guys when we make our next decisions here. So we can't really predict what's going to happen. We really want to kind of try and look at the data, and we want players to give it a chance and give it a shot, and then tell us if it's really bad, and we'll see if it matches the data, and we'll make changes as necessary.
I think if I put my player hat on and I really honestly think about like what was like the kind of like the cause of like toxicity when you're like put in with 4 other people who are pre-made, right? It almost always for me comes down to like position, actually. Like, what role am I going to play?
Totally, yeah.
Because those four other people who are playing, like, those folks, they already know what they're playing because they've decided it within their group. But you're that X factor, right? So with the ability to actually kind of queue as a position, it seems like we're actually eliminating a large potential source of...
That's exactly right, actually. If you look at a lot of the chat logs of pre-made 4 games, it was always a case of, hey, you have to play this role.
Right.
You have to play this position, right? Because everybody had already decided. And if you disagreed with that, they would try to gang up on you and try to convince you otherwise. So I think the design that these guys have come up with really solves one of the inherent problems with pre-made 4s, just like you say.
It's really significant. Like, so Riot, we do a really good job about not being data driven, but it's one of those things where like we like looked at the delta and we're just like, that's a pretty big opportunity. Like, right, we obviously do, we ask players about it and stuff like that too, to say like, hey, is this a better experience? And we're really confident that this is going to be a significantly better experience.
Okay. So before we get off this topic, if you all had one thing that you could say to like Jeff was talking about earlier, the guy who wants to be Faker, the girl who wants to be the Michael Jordan of League of Legends, like what would you say to them to inspire confidence moving into the next season?
Do you mean about like
about the dynamic
about like
queue?
why is it going to be okay?
That soloist. Why is it? Tell that soloist why is it going to be okay?
I don't know. Like I could say something inspiring or something pragmatic. I'll go with pragmatic.
Truly Socrates.
Yeah, I would say like something like remember. Think about the worst thing Riot's ever done, and then think about what happened afterwards. So like think about like jungle changes, right? So,
man, it's too early.
Yeah.
Too early.
So like I had after the jungle changes at the start of the season, there were a lot of heated discussions internally. That led to some really good changes eventually after like a month or two of conversations and sort of like passionate arguments. So, this is a big change, and change is scary, and we're going into it eyes wide open. And if it doesn't work out, like we're gonna get in there and we're gonna make it awesome. So I think my advice to them would be like, try it, let us know what you think, and give us genuine feedback. Yeah.
We're building this thing with you guys. So
yeah. This is for players.
Yeah, and keep in mind that a lot of us are ranked players as well, and really engaged players of the game. Like, we don't want to deal with a bad ranked experience any more than you guys do, and we're going to work as hard as we can to make it a great experience for everybody. And like, the great people are always going to rise to the top. Like, if you work hard, do your homework, like on the game, not your school homework. That's obviously just going to distract you.
Just be good to people.
Well,
yeah, just like
good
if you're good, like people are going to notice, and the system is going to reward you.
I think that's a great point, actually. Like, if you look at real sports, like I don't know if you guys follow like college basketball. Like, everybody in the country knew that Anthony Davis was the best player on Kentucky's basketball team, and they have great players on that team. And so I think this really is the next evolution of League, where the best players will still shine, right? Even amongst their friends, even amongst their top teams. And like, I don't think we're going to lose that with this change. But we will see stronger teams come out of this system. We'll see better competition between teams in the system. So I really want to see players give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see like organized groups of people really like up the level of competition. It's like that just pushes you to get better, right? Like, who doesn't want to unlock that next level of the game?
Yeah, I mean, that's like you look at like ranked solo right now. You watch like streams or whatever versus like pro games, and it's a different game. It's significantly different. And so if we're able to make the top of the ranked experience like as good as that or close to as good as that, because pros are self-organizing around trying to get to the top. Like, I think that'll be a win.
I think a good analogy that comes to mind for me is that I was having a conversation with one of my fellow Magic playing buddies lately, the other day, and we were talking about different formats. And one of the things, like, I made the comment that, talking about the sealed format, which basically you get 6 packs and you build the best deck you can out of the sealed format. Sorry, I just bumped the mic. And I made the offhand remark that, it's based on luck. It's like, it's all luck of the draw and what you get in your packs. And they're like BS. And I'm like, what do you mean BS? And they're like, no, because why is it the same, like 10 guys are always in the top 10 at every single Pro Tour qualifier, at every single Grand Prix? Like, a lot of it is skill based. And then if you look at even the team events for it, like it's still those same 10 people who are always in the top 10. So I think what you said is like really poignant. Skill, if you are a high skilled player, like you're still going to be up there. You're still going to be rewarded.
Like just look at the example of like chess versus poker. Like, chess is a very deterministic game. It has lots of possibilities of things you can do. But poker is like a game that has a lot of variance from the cards that you get. And you still see really, really good poker players that consistently win money over the long term.
Yeah. No, that is definitely very true. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the actual changes that we've made, because like we said earlier, like it is a drastic change from the previous Champ Select experience. to the point where I think Jeff, you brought it up earlier, where we're actually kind of democratizing that entire process. Like, I guess the first question I would have, maybe for one of you guys, is like, why was it important for us to actually take those steps to make it more of an actual team experience?
Yeah, it really comes down to, we talked about this a little bit already, but basically, like, players they're coming into a high stakes experience. They have to resolve a pretty complicated conflict with not a lot of transparency around each other's interests. And you have 30 seconds, go, right? It's like, what? Like, it's a bad experience, right? And so when we looked at all the stuff we could be working on, we were like, hey, this is a pretty big opportunity. Can we take some of this stuff that's, kind of like behind the cogs and make it just part of the core experience of getting into a game, and resolve some of those conflicts for players. So we looked at, obviously the most significant change is position selection, right? Because that's arguably the most important decision that you're making going into a ranked game, right? And then, from there, we looked at stuff like pick and ban, and how, with bans, how we were expressing that information. We've changed it so that the bans are more distributed across your team, right? This again is in line with sort of like our vision of making the exercise of forming a team a group-wide experience rather than just all of the burden is on one.
So Cam, you should actually like tell players a story of like some of our testing on distributed bans, and maybe even actually idea of we were doing suggested bans at one point as well.
Yeah. So yeah,
I like the big sigh.
Oh, man.
Like, yeah.
I can see that. I can see the heavy breathing in Sue's meme. Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
I mean, like that was a really interesting set of different things that we could have done, that we explored. I mean, what we ended up with was just distributing the bans across like 3 players of the team, but we also considered things like, what if we still had a captain and people could suggest like what bans like they might want them to do, or like what if we combined like both distributed bans and ban suggestions. So like you could tell your team like, hey, could you ban this for me? Like one of you 3 guys that's going to ban. And we actually did simulations with players on all these different combinations of how we could spread like ban power or not. And we learned a lot of really interesting things. Like, I mean, for example, if you give 3 people on your team ban powers, but they only get 1 ban each, and then somebody else asks them to do something, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to ban like something that they want to ban, or are they going to ban something that the other player wanted? And the outcome of that was like, oh, actually, this is a terrible idea, because like the system is going to like give you this tool that's like, hey, communicate with your team, like tell them like how they could help you out. But the guy's like, I only have 1 ban. Like I want to do the thing that's good for me, because like I know like how I play and I know what I want to do. But the system is like putting this little formal like icon up there. It's like, hey, your teammate wants you to do this, and it just creates actually extra opportunity for conflict in champion select. And even the captain, it's like the captain is kind of randomly chosen. Like, why did this one guy, and actually you're all like pretty similarly skilled, like how come this one guy got all this influence over the course of your game by like choosing all the bans for everybody? And
is that the super trolley one? Was it the
no, the super trolley one is when you give people 1 ban each and then let other people suggest.
Okay. Yeah, I remember there was some interesting stuff that came out of that.
Well, yeah, and even the captain, like if you give the captain suggestions from the team, even that creates more opportunity for trolling. Like it's much worse when you like select champion and like show it to everybody. It's like, hey, could you please ban this for me? And the captain's like, I got 3 bans, but no thank you.
Yeah, that was one of those things where like going into it, we're like, oh yeah, that's obviously like a way better system. And then we actually saw the data, we're like, no, that's a way worse system.
We would never do that.
That was actually a step backwards. That's one of the cool things about design, is you kind of like discover it as you're like stuff that's not obvious kind of boils out of just player like natural tendencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The other really weird thing I saw in your labs was when you guys removed kind of ban suggestions and only had distributed bans, a bunch of trolling actually disappeared.
Yeah.
And we were analyzing that a lot, and we were like, well, actually what happened was because every player has a powerful choice in Champ Select now, it's almost like you have leverage against everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to troll you because you're going to counter troll me.
Mutually
And so,
assured destruction.
yeah, exactly.
And not only that, like you only have one ban. What are you going to use it for? Something that's good for you and the team, or are you going to use it to troll somebody?
And so it was super interesting how that final design had like the lowest trolling and actually was the simplest design too.
Yeah. But we had so much discussion within the team. Like that one was definitely everybody had a lot of ideas, and we were like, how do we make sure that we're making the right choice?
Yeah, some of that UX was like shockingly difficult. It's like, well, is it the first three guys, and then it goes back to the top, or is it the last three, or like? What?
Oh my God!
It's like so much. It's like so many minute decisions
like
that went into that.
not even making the decision to do distributed bans. Like, how do you communicate this new concept to people?
Yeah.
Like, we went through a ton of iteration on that.
Well, how did we actually decide upon making the people who were doing the distributed banning 3, 4, and 5? Like, what actually led us to saying that was the right choice?
We tested like 4 or 5 possible ways of doing it, and that was the one where players like, oh, I get it. It's going to go this, and then that. And every other one was like, why does it go up and then down? And why did it start at the top and then repeat? It was like the most natural flow of information was to go down through the bottom and then come back to the top. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, we tried some stuff like, could we separate it out? And ultimately,
we tried the thing where like the cards would like shift, like you'd go the first 3 and then like reshuffle.
Oh my God.
That was terrible.
It was like,
that was so awful.
There was a bunch of options.
Tremendously
But
confusing.
I think the final kind of like metaphor that we used was the idea of kind of center court. So like in real sports, before you start a game, like the team captains or the team leads will go to center court and they'll do something, right? They'll like play rock, paper, scissors, or they'll throw a coin toss, and that will decide some elements of the game. And so we were like, hey, players 3, 4, 5, you'll notice they're actually jutted out towards the center a little bit more. And that's kind of the center stage element that we were playing with.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because like some of our really early concepts had that same idea. And even like the center stage idea that we ended up going back to in the end, like we kind of had hints of that early on, and like it wasn't working really well. And so we tried a bunch of other stuff. But ultimately, like all that iteration like helped us learn, and eventually got back to like kind of some of our first like gut instincts.
Very interesting. Well, I will say I'm actually a little bit upset with the new pick ban procedure, because you've taken away my opportunity to go make a sandwich as
true.
the 5th player in the game.
Yeah,
we're
shorting a bunch of sandwich stocks. We didn't want to let people know, but that's the whole reason for the change.
Well, I mean, but actually, like it seems like it's actually a good change, though, right? Like getting more people involved in the whole process, right?
I mean, we're hoping that it actually ends up with faster champion selects. I remember like when I first started going to ranked, I was just like, oh, you mean I gotta like wait for 5 minutes to get into one game? Like, this is crazy. Like, people take this really seriously. And I was like season 1 or whatever. See, our hope is that like people don't just like oh, it's champ select, I'm gonna go AFK for a bit, and then come back in the last 3 seconds, make their sandwich, and then pick their selection and go. We hope that they're like engaged throughout the whole process, and that makes the process go a bit more quickly, and also results in sort of more conversation between the team about their strategy and that kind of stuff as well. But we'll see how it shakes out.
It's funny because, one of the final pro player tests we did, all of us were sitting behind the room, and he actually was like, I can't go to the bathroom anymore. I have to actually sit here and talk to my team and figure out what we're doing. Yep. And all of us were like, okay, I think we did it.
Yeah. There's like a subtle high five.
Right.
Like, do we have like data or anything that shows that, I'm asking data, like, but do we have like kind of just feedback that shows that the more engaged and involved a player is during the champ select process, like that shows that there's reduced toxicity in game? Or
I don't know if we have any like quantitative data on like words spoken. That stuff would be so hard to parse. Like, it's one of, so the way we do design it right is like it's like a harmony of like quantitative data, which is like when you hear Jeff talking on the forums about like we found X% of this and Y% of this, we controlled for confounds, and then we determined this, right? Then we have qualitative data, which is like we asked users about this stuff, and then we just have like, as gamers, this feels like, in my experience, this is how things went, right? So I think that's one of those decisions where we're like, we before we ship the product, we're not going to have a lot of good data on like how this stuff is going to play out. But just like experientially, so far in all our testing, it's been like there's a lot more collaboration going on, and it makes sense just given the structure of the rules and how you can't go AFK and that kind of stuff. And ultimately, we believe that's healthier for the game. So I think that's one of those decisions where it wasn't like we're like data, therefore it's like, yeah, this is just a good design choice.
I think the only data point that we had as a team was in the original team builder, we had a concept called active waiting versus passive waiting. So when you're sitting in team builder and you're waiting for teammates to appear for you to accept and decline, that was passive waiting because you're just waiting there. And people would often like, jump on YouTube, play other games, so on and so forth. And that was not a great experience. People actually, they perceive that as lasting a lot longer than it did. So even if they were waiting there for 5 minutes, in the surveys and stuff, they'd be like, I was there for 20 minutes.
Yep. I totally sent Jeff this email. I said, the day after, I was like, Jeff, this champ select takes forever, bro. And he's like, dude, you're only a champ select for like 10 minutes. I was like, dude, it felt like 30 minutes, man.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Time stretches the longer you're waiting.
Yeah.
And I think the key with the new champion select is because every element is more engaging, we call that active waiting. Because when it's not your turn now, you're still engaged. You're thinking about what are your teammates doing? How does it affect my decision? And so it doesn't feel as long anymore compared to the passive waiting.
Yeah. And we also like deliberately built stuff in there to help you communicate better, help you like tell your team like, hey, I'm thinking about playing this person. You can do that right at the beginning. And then when it's your turn, it's like, hey, I might not even have to change my decision at all. And my team had all this time to look at what I wanted to do and like build a team comp around like having good synergy between our champions. And it just makes everything go a little bit faster.
Plus, it's so much prettier now. You like see like the flames rising and stuff. Like, oh, yeah, just chill out.
Man, the new champ select process is just gorgeous. Like I remember the first time I sat down to an internal test for it, and I'm just like, whoa! The battlefield kind of laid out in front of you and everything. I'm not trying to like pat ourselves on the back for it by any means, but like as a non-creative or non-artistic person, like I was I was actually really I was really taken away.
I mean,
with it.
You have no idea. Like for us on the team, the visual and motion graphics guys, like they just do the most amazing stuff. Like I make gray boxes and I like wave my hands a lot, and we talk in meetings. When you see that stuff become what it is, like for players, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable how amazing a job they've done.
They're sorcerers.
It's like dark magic.
Exactly. All right. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody, for the love of everything, don't forget to lock your selections in.
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That is like I anticipate, and hopefully not after this podcast, but I anticipate that there will be a few people who are just like maybe kicked back to game select or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, what's going on? And they might have forgotten to lock in the band select.
I remember when we talked about this, and I didn't even think we should do it. You're like, no, we got to do it. The benefits of it are so strong. We know it's going to be a hard change for players, and we've done a lot of features within Champion Select and around Champion Select to kind of message that you need to lock your stuff. We know it's going to cause some pain for people, but just think about not having to wait for that rando guy, like letting the timer run down to 0 before he locks in Poppy. It's like he knew that, he put that up there.
Poppy's
like
awesome now. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Dude,
I'm not saying Poppy's a bad
The
pick.
new Poppy looks sick.
I've been staring at the Poppy screen on PBE and like our internal build. It's like it looks awesome.
Oh,
so
the
got
risk
Poppy
of
on
it
the mind.
aside, that ult OMG.
Yeah, it looks super wicked.
But yeah, like now when that guy he puts up a champion 5 seconds in, just lock it in and we'll move on to the next guy. You don't
We
have to
actually
wait
think
the whole
this
time.
one small change will be the biggest difference in champ select speed.
Yeah.
We think it'll be the biggest change in making it much faster than before. And just like these guys are saying, it actually is one of the things we're worried about for the new champ select. After the PBE, I saw that about 20% of players didn't understand yet that they had to lock in. So I think you guys have some work to do.
Oh man.
Yeah, we were working on a feature today. To
I
help
wonder.
message that
Yeah, we'll have to
better.
look at LP stuff. That's interesting.
Well, we should make a T-shirt. Friends don't friends not lock in.
Yeah. Friends don't let friends. Yeah.
All right. So Kenna, let's start with you on this question. Like, if this has obviously been an experience for you, right? Like the taking something that's been part kind of the collective knowledge of the League community for so long and just drastically revamping it and making it this awesome, ideally much better experience for them. Like, what were some of the most valuable lessons you've learned along the way for this?
I mean, like I have a lot of like design, just like internal lessons. Like, I think the biggest thing for me is like understanding. I don't know if this is gonna resonate with everyone, but like understanding your team and like your capabilities and kind of like your strengths and weaknesses and that kind of stuff. It's like when we started out, the team was a little bit different, and we had to, as we went along, kind of like explore the limits of how far we could push it, right? So it was like, hey, can we find a MoGraph guy? Like, yeah, I think we can. Like, maybe, right? Like, can we find like another visual dude to help us with this, to push this to where it's supposed to be?
MoGraph is motion graphics for those listening at home, by the way.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there's the guys who make all the cool, crazy smoke and like the gears that like that turn around the champions and that kind of stuff. Because originally
Thank
it
you,
was
Matt and Greg.
Yeah,
for all their work on this.
Yeah, it was less. It was like a little less ambitious, but like I think the deeper we got into it, the more we realized that we were like really making a foundational change, and we needed to like give it the respect it needed. So like, I think for me the biggest things are around those kind of like skills. The other thing is like little changes can have big consequences. So like a little thing like letting people broadcast their champion select or their champion choice, right? Oh hey, it turns out that when now it's your pick and people can see who that champion was that you picked. If you're going to trade with another player down the road, like or further down the list, people can snipe that champion. Little changes like that don't seem like they're going to have cascading consequences have big consequences. So I think those are probably the two things that I take away from. I mean, there's like 100 lessons with every project, right? But those are two ones that kind of stick out to me.
Cam, how about you?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a pretty tough question. Certainly, like working on a pretty big team on the redesign of something so central to the game. You learn a ton about working with all these different disciplines and like how to collaborate together. How to bring like people of different disciplines like into the design process and like give them a voice. What else? Just like the impact of like some of the little things that we do, like just as we're iterating and testing with people, like some of the surprising stuff, like the things that you learn that you're, oh wow, like the pick and 10 stuff, like we talked endlessly about it, and we all had our hypothesis about what was going to be the best design, but actually just like trying it and doing it, it's like, oh wow, you learned these like really interesting things, and then in retrospect you're like, yeah, of course that makes sense, but we didn't know ahead of time. Like I don't think any of us had the right answer, so that was really great, and just like our commitment to doing that through the whole process.
Very cool. Very cool. So,
does Jeff could answer that question?
Huh?
Jeff doesn't have to answer that question. Okay, all right.
Well, actually, I was going to give Jeff a different question. I was actually going to. So
I
Jeff,
can answer that question too, because
curveball.
I think I got a good one for you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, actually, it was after the Great Design Pivot. And it was me talking to these guys, and I was like, hey team, are we going to try to do this? Do we want to do this pivot? Are we still going to get it onto PPE on time? And everybody agreed. But I was like, what do you need me to do for you guys? And this is what I learned. This team loves beef jerky.
Oh yeah, holy shit.
We got so much beef jerky for you guys.
All
and
you
we churned through
aspiring
so many bags.
producers and
But,
designers is all you need. It's lessons from Jeff Lynn, guys.
Any particular brand?
Nave, I think it was the...
Nave. Okay.
Or
something like
Crave?
that.
No, Crave
Crave,
was the brand.
yeah.
Crave.
With a K.
With a
With
K.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good stuff. I like their turkey jerky.
And those really polarizing protein bars.
Yes.
I mostly ate the coconut shavings. So
Yes.
Those were awesome.
So
Yeah.
apparently, if you give the team beef jerky and Quest bars, magic will happen.
There you have it, folks.
That's all you need to ship a great feature.
It's a secret fuel.
It's a secret fuel: beef jerky and protein bars. So we did mention earlier, like, you know, we're gonna keep watching. Obviously, as we get into moving this feature into ranked, as it goes on to live in the non-ranked queues, we're gonna keep watching. Are there some particular areas that we're keeping a very close eye on right now, as far as like how players are interacting with new Champ Select?
So we're definitely worried about dynamic queues. All the concerns players have raised to us, we've documented where we have actually different team members within the team just focus solely on some of those concerns. The other thing we're worried about that some of these guys mentioned is requiring to lock in. So as I mentioned on PBE, 20% of players didn't quite understand that you have to lock in yet, and we have a lot of work to do on that stuff as well. But other than that, we're on track to try to figure this out by the new ranked season. Okay.
Any long-term goals for the team, like with Champ Select?
Yeah, get it into all the queues.
All
Right?
right.
That's the next big. And then get it into the new client, right?
I think one of the things that we're kind of playing with as a team right now is expanding that sport metaphor even more. So one of the concerns players have is, do we actually reinforce one-trick ponies? Are we encouraging them more in the system? And we have a couple of really neat ideas that they're thinking about right now of how do we actually incentivize and reward players for being masters of the game? Right? Is it actually possible to be the best league player across all the positions? And what does the system look like that could encourage that?
I think if you put like maybe an announcer in the game says, now coming to the Rift, starting at support.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you. Thank you all for being here today. This has actually been a really cool conversation. I hope that everybody at home got something out of it. Like personally, I learned a lot. Thank you, everybody, for listening at home. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all of your support. Be sure, if you're downloading on iTunes, to rate and review. We would love your feedback about this podcast. We're not going to get better without it. If you're listening on SoundCloud, please keep leaving comments. We love hearing your feedback there. Also, if you're not aware, there's a lot of great league community, kind of community-produced podcasts out there. The Trinity Force Podcast Network, those guys do a couple of great podcasts. Definitely recommend checking them out. And the folks over at Just Okay Gaming also do a podcast. It's a little not safe for work sometimes, so just a fair warning. But until next time, my name is Andy Belford, and thank you for listening. Peace.